very soon, which is why stricter measures need to be enforced. A night curfew is in place on the 15th of April, but on the ground in the streets of Mumbai, even though it's more than an hour since the night curfew began, people are still out and about.
Social distancing is missing. Many of them are not wearing the mask. That is the kind of situation that we see on a daily basis. We have seen police action being taken time and again. There is a clampdown, but these people return. There has to be a permanent solution to several such areas in Mumbai.
Hello there, you're watching Epicenter on CNN News 18. The COVID-19 numbers are surging in India again. The virus that was lying low for a bit has raised its ugly head again. The definitive death blow to the virus can only be dealt with a vaccine, but that has been far from encouraging in India. After a slow start and vaccine hesitancy, the inoculation drive may have picked pace, but it's still a long way to go. What should India be doing to hasten the pace of this Brahmastra, that is the COVID-19 jab? Joining me now on the show, Dr. Raman Ganga Khedkar, K. Sujata Rao, former Health Secretary, will also be with us shortly, and Dr. Rajesh Parekh, Director, Medical Research, Jaslok Hospital and Research Center, Mumbai. I want to first go across to Dr. Ganga Khedkar because he was the face of ICMR when this COVID pandemic had started and was out there telling people exactly what to do. Dr. Ganga Khedkar, what do you say now is the reason for India being the largest vaccine manufacturer but still lagging behind in inoculations? What are we doing which is not correct? How can we encourage people to come out and get themselves vaccinated?
One of the issues that we have to realize is we are the largest production house of vaccine in the world. Despite that, and every effort that the government is making to ensure that adequate number of dosages would be available for the citizens to take it, we find that the pace of acceptance continues to be low. I think what is important is we will have to develop multi-pronged strategies to ensure that vaccine hesitancy is reduced to the largest extent. I'll give you a simple example. In a couple of days back, suddenly a news comes that in Europe, in Germany and elsewhere, they are saying people less than 55 should not receive Covishield vaccine. Now, when you get this news and you are sitting in India, one of the thoughts that they might have is, why should I take the vaccine? Because now 45 plus, they are also being opened up.
That's right.
Those issues have to be countered very strongly by the government as rapidly as possible. You will find vaccine hesitancy can go down. You find the issues related to toxicity which are blown up dramatically in the WhatsApp media. You find that they have to be negotiated really well through transparent dealing. What we should do is we should come out every week and try to talk about the toxicities that have been analyzed, and there was no association that was found with the same. You'll find more and more people would like to come out and say that they would like to receive vaccine. Same is true with respect to efficacy data. If the efficacy data becomes available, those doubts that people have in their mind, whether this vaccine is going to be efficacious, even that will be reduced to a larger extent. I think it is time that we involve people in the fight against this pandemic by ensuring that they become part of the driving force which goes to say that I need vaccine, I will take vaccine, and I will also promote vaccine among those whom I know, so that all of us would remain protected.
All right, that's a very important point you're making, sir. But a lot of these steps have been taken by people, by the administration. In fact, even the top ministers, the Prime Minister took jabs out there for the public to see, to reassure them. but something doesn't seem to be working. Dr. Parekh, I want to come to you on that count. India has conducted several vaccination drives, and pulse polio is the one that comes to my mind immediately. Even in that, and because, you know, at one stage in college, I was participating in the pulse polio inoculation drive. I know that there were a set of people who had reservations about even those drops. There were places where there were rumors that it can make children, when they grow up, sterile. I mean, those kind of rumor mongering was there, but I've also seen doctors on the ground trying to communicate with the population and allay their fears and concerns. Can that model be adopted here as well? How do you do it?
Oh, absolutely, Maha. I happen to be one of the doctors who was on the ground during the polio campaign, practicing very actively in it. But, you know, Maha, I think it's being oversimplistic to attribute the current failure to vaccine hesitancy.
Okay.
Undoubtedly, it's there, but it's a small variable. I mean, as you pointed out, there are two elements to this tragedy. We are, first of all, the largest manufacturers of vaccine by far in the world.
That's correct.
And we are also the most experienced vaccinators in the world, having conducted two very successful programs, the polio program that you alluded to, and the smallpox program before that. So before we figure out what's going wrong and what needs to be corrected, if I may share a graph with you, it'll clearly indicate where we stand on the global scene.
Okay.
Here it is. If it's possible to see it, I'm covering my face, of course, but if you can see it, you know, the United States and the United Kingdom made horrendous errors in the beginning of this pandemic, but let's give them due credit. They learned from their mistakes, have corrected their actions mid-course. And, you know, UK currently, this is 2 days old, UK has vaccinated more than 50% of its eligible programs. The US is moving there. We're looking at other countries. Look at the world, but look at India. Our figures at less than 5% are worrisome.
Yes.
And why are they worrisome? Because we have wasted already about 7% of the vaccines we manufactured because they expired without getting used. Not only that, we have exported more vaccines than we have given to our people. Now that has happened. There's no point bemoaning all this. What do we need to do? How do we move ahead? What are the issues that we are facing? I think a fundamental issue, you know, vaccine hesitancy is like skimming the surface. A fundamental issue is to come to terms with reality. We should have been prepared, and therefore we should now prepare further. For example, you know, a year ago in January, mathematical models were available, which have been very robust and which have pretty much predicted everything that has happened so far. We wrote about it in our first book on the coronavirus. I remember discussing it with you on TV.
Yes.
We talked about it currently in our vaccine book. And in December, I wrote out a policy paper anticipating the second wave and suggesting then that perhaps a good way to do it is not to stratify this program just by age, but in addition by location.
Okay.
For example, 3 months ago, we had reasonably good data showing what the immunity levels were like in different areas. And in some areas, they were fairly high, and in others, they were low. Now, we had suggested mid-December that in addition to age, let's look at location and move into what today have become the hotspots.
All right.
So and lastly, Maria, we need to mutate our thinking. We need to mutate our policies as rapidly as the virus is mutating.
Okay.
Because otherwise, the surge of the second wave, the crust of the second wave will catch us when our vaccination program catches up.
All right.
And what will be triply tragic then is that, as happened in Israel a month ago, Israel, by the way, as you know, has vaccinated nearly 100% of its population. But a month ago, the vaccination program came to a grinding halt because the vaccination centers now became potential sites for infection because the crest of the wave had hit them. Now, let's hope that doesn't happen here.
Yes, in fact, as you're rightly mentioning, that the strategy needs to be tweaked according to the requirements, and we'll take a look at that. I'll ask Dr. Ganga Khetkar also for some suggestions on that count. But as Dr. Parekh just pointed out, and this is the this is the kind of graph that we'll now quickly show to you as to how many people have been inoculated per 100 people, the daily doses that have been given out. And this is a comparative figure that will give you a sense of how low India's vaccination has been despite all the efforts and despite the vaccination starting way back in January. So now you can clearly see the United Arab Emirates, while it has given 1.07 daily doses per 100 people, look at where India stands there. And this is, we've just taken some of the larger countries here. There are several other there. India lies at pretty much the bottom, just before Bangladesh and some other countries. So our share is 0.13, and the irony is, as we were pointing out just a short while back, that India is the largest producer and manufacturer of vaccines. We are sending out vaccines to other countries. The other countries are taking advantage of these vaccines, as they should, inoculating their populations. But here what we are seeing is not just vaccine hesitancy, as has been pointed out there by our panelists, but also the fact that the strategizing perhaps needs to change a bit. Let me bring in Sujata Rao as well, former health secretary, who's joining us here on the show. Sujata Rao, what would you suggest at this stage, when we are seeing our vaccine or inoculation process going at a slow pace and the COVID surge once again coming back? What do you think is a strategy that could be deployed here? Do you think that in cities, for instance, like Mumbai and Delhi, where there is traffic, where the populations are moving, where we are also seeing a lot of incoming flights, do you think that inoculations there need to pick up first?
Maria, I've always believed that right from the beginning, that there has to be micro level, and the entire effort has to be completely decentralized to the local level. And I had suggested and also felt deeply that we have enough data, epidemiological data, of exactly where the virus is circulating and where it is and how much harm it is doing, and likely, because after all, you must remember, almost 2 to 3 months ago, epidemiologists had said the second wave can be expected in February. So it's not come as a surprise. We should have been prepared. They have been warning us about it. And so we know where the virus is. And those pockets are the ones that should have been saturated with vaccination in a very calibrated, serious way. And I say local planning because I do believe that it's just not big government hospitals, but every possible outlet which has basic minimum abilities, capacities, and standards to provide this inoculation or vaccination should have been enrolled, and across the population age groups, they should have been vaccinated. By taking a staged approach, I found in Hyderabad itself, at the very crucial place when we had that window of opportunity, they had said only workers, for example, should be vaccinated after health providers were over with. Then they would have 100 vaccinations per day. 20 would turn up because of vaccine hesitancy. So it meant wasting vaccines as well as wasting the opportunity for 80 others to have taken that day. We cannot afford these kind of slow-paced, steady, maybe rational approaches. We need to have gone on all fronts, a multi-sectoral approach, and really scaled up the entire effort. Okay. Scaling up can never be done from Delhi. It has to be done by local micro-planning. I'm afraid that strategy was not agreed to, and we are paying the price for it today. But I hope it will change.
All right. Dr. Ganga Khetkar, I want to come back to you because you mentioned that there are, sometimes WhatsApp messages as well that create some kind of, fear in people's minds. Now, there are reports also coming out now that the expiry date may be extended by another 3 months on these vaccines. Do you think information of this nature also creates some kind of concern among people? I mean, after all, why would people, after knowing that the expiry date is, say, 6 months, it's being extended by another 3 months, why would they want to take that jab? Do you think a proper explanation then needs to be given to people along with that information?
Absolutely. I think every action that you are going to take, if it is communicated with the rationale behind it, people tend to accept. One of the reasons why we have to think differently is the community preparedness could have been stronger before we initiated this drive of rollout of vaccines. We had almost 2.5 months time when the first wave had declined, and then our vaccination drive actually started. Now that we are into a situation where we have to try and find solutions for the same. We have to become more transparent in terms of rationale. More, you have to explain science to people. Otherwise, people will react. One of the things that has happened in the pandemic is, everybody thinks that they are able to read a paper and draw their own conclusions. No, so any news that comes today, even a common man, when he will have that access to that news, they are going to draw conclusions which may be far different than you would like them to do. But they are based on many issues which may be unknown to him. Now, if you explain them well, I think people will come forward and things will happen rapidly.
All right, and talking about strategy, let's quickly listen in now to the BMC that has in fact written to the centre seeking a nod for door-to-door vaccinations for elderly and disabled amidst the surge in the cases. My colleague Vinaya Deshpande spoke with BMC Commissioner Iqbal Chahal on the plan to administer 1 lakh doses per day. But is that going to happen? Because there's a back and forth between the Maharashtra government and the centre over this. Listen in to Iqbal Chahal.
One question I want to ask you though, vaccination seems to be the focus. You have said that 1 lakh will be the target of the BMC. At such a point, do you want any permissions from the centre for door-to-door vaccination?
Right now, we are doing about 45,000 vaccination per day. And I'm happy to say that we have crossed 1 million mark 3 days back. So now we are above 1 million vaccination in Mumbai. Government of India's COVID monitoring team had come to Mumbai about 10 days back. So in the wrap-up meeting before Honorable CM Sir, where I was also present on a VC, I have made a very humble request to COVID monitoring team and Government of India that if we are permitted to step out of hospitals and go door-to-door for vaccination, we can achieve a target of 100,000 per day very easily. We have got 85,000 new cases of COVID positive have been detected. Out of 85,000, there were only 269 deaths, 269, which is 0.2% mortality. But out of this 269, 225 mortalities happened 60 plus. So just imagine if all 60 plus people are vaccinated, how mortality can further fall down.
Is there any communication to you from the centre about whether and when you will get such a permission? Are you also positive that a door-to-door vaccination campaign will help you quicker?
That in Tamil Nadu, suddenly a dozen ambulances went to a particular locality and they vaccinated 400 people in 2 hours. And then I have my own information that in Rajasthan, the staff, the nurses in primary health center in villages, they are going door to door and vaccinating people.
Sujata Rao, I want to come to you on this count. Is this something that should have been thought of initially itself, that there would be several people, and because over here the most vulnerable were the senior citizens, that they might not be able to come to the vaccination center, and a method to vaccinate, inoculate them should have been devised from the word go?
This is what I mean by local decentralized planning. These kind of issues would have emerged, and you would have been able to identify and mark those which are vulnerable households where you would need to probably provide a mobile medical van to go and do the vaccination. I mean, this kind of planning becomes enabled. But what I'm surprised is why Delhi has to give permission for a strategy which Maharashtra, for example, finds it very important and useful for their, tackling the vaccination program. This is what I mean. Centralization doesn't tell what is the data that Delhi has to say no to Maharashtra. I mean, after all, the intention of Maharashtra government must be to get the maximum coverage to the most vulnerable. And if this strategy they feel works, it should work. Having said that, in vaccination, normally even for polio, which was just dropped, these require sterilized needles and there's a whole paraphernalia that has to go along. That was just drops. Even there, we had approaches to villages where all the children would be congregated and one after the other they would get vaccinated. So, you know, these kind of localized mohalla-wise approaches should have been taken, maybe whether it's door-to-door or mohalla to mohalla, would have certainly helped lot of vulnerable, high-risk people from coming, and you don't crowd hospitals either and strain them. So I think there is some logic, but of course strategies can be fine-tuned depending on the local situation.
Dr. Ganga Khetkar, you know, I remember speaking to you on this door-to-door vaccination process, and you had said that some of the vulnerable people would require monitoring for about half an hour for any sort of an allergic reaction perhaps, or reaction to the vaccine, and that is why a healthcare center or a hospital would be necessary. Do you think that this kind of strategy at this juncture that Maharashtra is asking for can be applied despite all the hiccups?
Hey, I fully agree with what Madam was saying, that you need to have a decentralized approach. When you start decentralizing, when they say door-to-door campaign, it doesn't necessarily mean the vaccine would be administered in every household. No, they could decide by themselves a suitable area where they could set up a small station and try to get over that particular issue. No, that it's like a mobile station that would move. It could also be that you convert an ambulance, no, whereby, you know, generally these ambulances which are for cardiac care can also have complete equipment available, and you could actually monitor the patients maybe in a separate tent or in some other facility nearby. That can also be done. You could administer everything there. But I agree with her completely that a decentralized approach could have worked, and this decentralized approach perhaps is one of the best ways to even involve the governments, the state governments, the local self-governments, into ensuring that they remain very active in searching solutions for it, rather than blaming on certain issues which can be very easily identified and talked about as the reasons